Welcome to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show. BJ Show.
Do I make mistakes? Never, ever, 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 ever. Except about 42 times a day. Good morning to you. This is the Brad and John Show. I am Brad. He is John. Together we make the BJ Show. This is the show for January 13th, 2025. This is A Block. Good morning to you, John. John? Mystery guest
I'm here, Brad.
Okay, good morning to you, John. That is John Combest, and every single morning we get together Monday through Friday, do the show live. It is on 104.5, broadcast live as well as streamed live, but then we record it, chop it up. If you're listening to the show in the future, you'll know this was the Monday, January 13th show, and it got off to a wonderful start. But you didn't know about that. We bring this guy along every morning. What's this guy's name?
I'm Casey Kasem.
And what he does is he takes all of the information that John puts on his johncombest.com line, his website, John Combest, C-O-M-B-E-S-T website, and he distills it down into 3 easy bites. And we start off with...
In third place...
You know what Kenny Rogers said, Brad?
Gotta know when you hold him?
He said a lot of things, but he also said... Don't fall in love with a dreamer. They'll always tell you they'll stay. But once you think you've got them, President Trump says, no way, Jose. Brad, when you go to your favorite public radio website today, stpl.org, you'll see a story, I should say, from the River City Journalism Fund. You know, they're a progressive group. They're just dedicated to independent journalism. And they've got an old guy named Mike Fitzgerald, not to be confused with the former Montreal Expos catcher. Mike Fitzgerald has a story up today, Brad, about hold on, let me gather myself, about the devastation that's about to be brought by Donald Trump. You know, there's a lot of illegal immigrants in the St. Louis area that are very scared, Brad, and they've been here for years. And some of them tried to do the right thing. Some of them are dreamers. They tried to have deferred citizenship. They tried to work in the right way, Brad. Others, well, they're just anchor babies. But there's a gentleman named Juan Carlos, and he says that if Trump tries to deport him, well, he's just going to start working illegally in the restaurant industry or the construction industry, Brad. So I don't know why everybody thinks this is bad news. We might get an influx of cheaper Mexican labor. I don't know what everybody's freaking out about, Brad.
John, the whole thing on this is that, and if you've read what Trump has said, he's going after the criminals, the people who are, the people who are being held in jail in New York. But of course, New York has the agreement where they won't give them over to ICE. That's who he's going after first. I doubt very seriously he's going to go to the people who have been here for a while and got a job and family. You know what I mean? I just don't see that happening. Do you? I mean, what do you think?
You know, Brad, let me interrupt. And I'm interrupting you because I know you're applying to work at St. Louis Public Radio, and you're speaking very rationally now, Brad, and you're talking about things that Donald Trump has actually said, and you're not fear-mongering. Well, and that's going to be a big strike against you when you apply at St. Louis Public Radio.
Well, remember, we bring this up all the time. The president in our recent history who has the most number of deportations, it wasn't Trump, it wasn't Biden, it was Obama.
That's right.
And that's what everybody, the crazy thing is Trump gets demonized for all these things. And I'm not defending him. I'm just essentially saying he gets demonized for all these things. And when you look at the numbers, it's like, well, he actually did pretty well. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly right. But we'll see more of this. And it's always a good story because it's an opportunity to highlight, kind of sad stories about immigrants. And look, there are people that came here when they were kids. They snuck across the border with their family by no choosing of their own. And they've chosen to do the right thing. And they've chosen to apply for whatever documentation they need. And they want to be productive members of society. And I think you need to provide them some sort of a path to citizenship. But that doesn't mean that people at the River City Journalism Fund won't take another excuse to take a shot at Donald Trump and Republicans. I was reading through the story, though, and they interviewed a woman who lives, she says, in West County. She's 30 years old. She says that her parents are here illegally. She's got a little brother who's a DACA dreamer, and then she's got a little sister who's just an anchor baby. But I was thinking about that proposal from David Gregory, incoming state senator David Gregory, about, the alleged bounty hunter scheme. And I was thinking, well, it can't be that hard to find, an illegal alien in West County if you have all these details, right? Like, where's my $1,000, David Gregory?
I could take him to one of the quick trips and make about 10 grand. I'm telling you.
Or a local Mexican restaurant. I think you need to go to just whatever tastes the most authentic, and whichever place when you're ordering your dang quesadilla, they can't understand you, and then you're probably in luck, don't you think?
You just bring up. Can we bring it up in B block the Gregory thing with the $1,000 bounty?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Is there anything new on it, or have we just haven't talked about it at all?
That's one of those things that I just think it gives Republicans a bad look. You know what I'm saying? It's just like, we're going to catch all those illegals. We're going to pay you $1,000. Well, no, they're not. It's never going to happen, right? You know what I'm saying?
Well, if you're telling me I need to take my deputy dog badge back and that I can't use it at El Maguey,
because
I feel like I'm out $3 from Amazon.
It's like my favorite thing is the gun buyback programs.
That's terrific. Yes.
Where these people show up with these, matter of fact, I don't know if I told you this, I mentioned this one time before. These guys, there was some city that was paying like $150 or $200 for long rifles, and these guys were manufacturing rifles that cost them like $50 a piece. They were taking like conduit and chop up a 2x4, and they really worked. The guns actually, you can, they call them zip guns. You can make them. They're not that hard to do. And they were making like $100 a gun. It's like, okay, that, pardon the phrase, but that backfired on the, the do-gooders. Oh, we're going to get these guns off the road street. No, you're not. You're going to get all the crappy guns that don't work anymore. You're not going to get any good guns, because not only that, what these guys turning in the zip guns, but the gun dealers hang out at these places and go like, hey, I'll give you $250 for that rifle. Deal. You know what I mean? And they don't go off. Don't get me going.
I know you're most excited though, Brad, for the drone buyback system that I think Donald Trump is going to start. Because you've always said, when drones are outlawed, only outlaws will have drones. That's one of your catchphrases.
Are we done with this? Can we go on to number 2?
We are done with this.
Okay, number 2.
Up a notch to number 2.
One of your favorite social media platforms, Brad, one that you talked about at an infamous Logan School of Chiropractic presentation many years ago, TikTok. It's allegedly on the chopping block. You say, John, isn't this just a bunch of national hype? Well, there was a piece in the St. Louis Post-Dispatch over the weekend, Brad. A reporter named Hannah Wyman went to a number of local businesses, small businesses. You might even call them micro businesses. And those folks talked about how important TikTok has been to their business. Chicks that might have previously just put their little trinkets up on Etsy or whatever have been able to promote them on TikTok. And allegedly, according to them, I'd love to see their actual real balance sheet, but according to them, they've had an explosion of sales, and it's thanks to TikTok. Now, you're more of an expert on this than I am, Brad. But if I understand correctly, thanks to a law signed by Biden, TikTok would either have to sell to an American company, a legit American company, or would not be allowed to operate in the United States. And that deadline is, I believe, January 19th, right?
Yeah, it's a week from yesterday. It's Sunday the 19th, and that is correct. And essentially what would happen is, if the government has its way, they would essentially, all the ISPs would essentially block TikTok when you couldn't get it on your phone anymore, even though you still had the app. I mean, it's a crazy, weird story.
And what do you think's going to happen here, Brad?
Well, I don't know. The Supreme Court, if you listen to the Supreme Court watchers when they did the presentations last week, the interesting thing that I heard one interesting read on this, a pretty informed guy, and he said that the way the Supreme, this is his interpretation, the way the Supreme Court is leaning is the TikTok people are saying this is a First Amendment issue, but they're using the old theory of you can't shout fire in a crowded theater. The idea being, and more importantly in this case, you have to look at national security above free speech. And the whole deal on this is that they're just farming all this data, mining all this data and the crazy part of it is that if you really, if you go into watch, and I've seen some of these videos, there's a guy on YouTube that's absolutely fascinating who is this security guy, and he's a young guy. He's looks like he's 25 or 30. And you watch him, and you never want to use your phone again.
I know what you mean.
You want to take your phone, and you want to take it out and get a chainsaw and chop it in half, then take the pieces and burn them, and then take it, throw it in the river. You know what I mean? It's to the point where it's like, holy crap. But that's the whole thing. I mean, let's be honest. The Chinese are tricky about this. They are very, very, very good at covert intelligence. And that's exactly what everybody's afraid of, is the fact that you're saying that, but the crazy thing about that is just what you said. Okay, if TikTok goes away, why can't you move over to YouTube, or why can't you move over to Facebook? And by the way, we pick this up in B Block, because now we got to get to number one here. Did you by any chance watch any of this? Here I go again with the movie. John, you need to watch, or excuse me, you don't need to watch the Joe Rogan, Mark Zuckerberg interview.
No, I haven't seen it. I will watch. Now, Brad, that's one I'll actually watch because it's not a movie. I watched most of the Trump interview. I've seen the visuals from the Zuckerberg interview, which are hilarious. And is he just putting his finger in the wind these days, or what? He being Zuckerberg.
It's to the point where once upon a time, I know someone who was in court, and even though he won the case, the judge said he had been evasive and disingenuous. And I would essentially say that I think that Zuckerberg probably had his team of comms people sit with him for weeks before he went into Rogan's thing. And I don't know. I mean, it's sort of like someone, well, we'll talk about it in B Block. It's just sort of interesting. He's done a 180. And
yes. And let me interrupt, Brad. I don't know how you read his statements today versus his statements, 2 years ago? And think they're even the same person.
Exactly.
And I mean, you want to have an open mind about people, I know, but maybe we'll save it for B Block. But I agree with you. I mean, 180 is a perfect way to put it, Brad.
In the interview, he makes it sound like, well, we were trying real hard.
To what?
Why? That's the whole point. It's just, I don't know. We'll talk about it in B Block. Okay, we're ready for number one?
We are.
The number one.
If you hear music that reminds you of the old Busch Stadium processions, Brad, if you hear stuff that reminds you of opening day, if you think of pomp and circumstance, you might just be hearing notes coming from Jefferson City today. We're going to have Clydesdales, Brad. We're going to have former Senator Roy Blunt reading the oath of office. That's right. Governor Mike Kehoe gets installed, some would say coronated, as governor today at the Missouri State Capitol. And the fun starts at 11:30. Gonna be a little chilly out there today, Brad. Now, I have the full schedule up today, courtesy of TV station KRCG in mid-Missouri. And the governor's procession and everybody with the governor, that whole shebang starts at 11:30 a.m. on the Capitol South lawn. You're familiar with the scene, Brad. And I think the incoming governor is going to make it quick because it's going to be a little chilly out there today, Brad. Then they'll have the whole deal where you can go by the governor's mansion, say hi to the governor and his wife. They're going to have a big ball tonight, a big gala tonight. So it's just a lot of pomp and circumstance today, Brad. And Governor Kehoe is slotting a little bit of time today. He's going to have a thing called Day One Action at 12:45. And I don't think that's just him and the First Lady. I think that Day One Action means he's going to go in there and sign some executive orders. What's it going to be? Will it be symbolism? Will it be substance? Who knows, Brad? But you can also watch it at mo.gov, and I have a link up to mo.gov on my website today. What I hope he doesn't do is sign an executive order banning co-hosting while driving, because that's what I did during A Block today, Brad. I can confess that. You know that.
So, John, why aren't you not there? I don't. I've heard you've never missed a inauguration since like 1956.
Yeah, I've been there. I've done it, Brad. I did it for the Blunt swearing in. That was beautiful. Got to see Claire McCaskill cry on stage. That was a nice moment. I think I can say that now. It's been 20 years. Yeah, she was weeping when Matt Blunt got installed because she lost to Matt Blunt. I was there for Jay Nixon swearing in. And as I told a dear friend of mine who asked me if I was coming, I was like, it's wonderful for political people. And for, if you work in politics, if this is your job to be there. And I think I'm going to let the people that enjoy going to these things go to those things, Brad.
John, you're just a party pooper. You know what they say about party poopers.
Well, what I do know is, can you, and this is a serious question, what would I give to being there, Brad?
What would you give?
Yeah. What would my presence add?
What would your presence add?
Yeah, why would I want to be, no offense to, and again, there's a lot of people that need to be there because it's their job. Or maybe if you haven't seen a swearing in, maybe if you weren't there for Matt Blunt in 2005, maybe if you weren't there for Jay Bird Nixon in 2009, if you've never done it, you should definitely go and see it. It's a beautiful thing, but I don't know why I would want to. I don't know what I would add to the festivities, Brad, other than just being a warm body outside.
John, you have a right arm and a left arm, correct?
Yeah, last time I checked, yeah.
And between your forearm and your bicep, you have a thing called an elbow?
I do.
You could be rubbing those against other people.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a lot of fun, wouldn't it?
You're not going to do it. Okay. Okay, we're going to take a break. John saying, where the hell did that come from? Okay.